across the World Wide Web, on your mobile devices, on social media platforms. This is Jambo Radio! www.jamboradio.co.uk. We are multilingual. We are conversational in the languages you best understand. We are Jambo Radio! Jambo Radio, inspiring transformation.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Moments with Sade and Enoch. I've got the wonderful, beautiful, stylish Sade here with me, and
hello everyone.
Can we get a drum roll? I've got the amazing. Now, I've got to go past amazing. Amazing is overused.
Okay.
I've got the incredible.
Iconic is overused these days.
Iconic is overused. Give us an adjective. Rupa, help us here. You studied law. You people speak
I know all of
grammar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll go with whatever you're saying.
I've got the legal. Good, amazing Rupa here with us. She's joined us. I said, how far did she travel? She said, I just walked up from the road.
Yeah.
I believe the company you work with is just down the road from
literally
here.
about 1 minute around the corner.
Oof,
so
okay.
I came very far for you.
Fantastic. So Rupa's joined us, and Rupa will be sharing a journey around growing up in Scotland, right? Like, because we were born in Scotland, right? Yeah, so I wasn't born in Scotland. Sade, I brought Sade to Scotland, and
Excuse you. We met in Scotland.
I brought Sade to Scotland.
If you feel better that way, that'll make you sleep at night.
But Rupa was born here, so it'll be interesting for us to hear that journey from the 70s.
I just made it into the 70s.
Give or take. I had to be careful there. I was like,
yes.
Just the 70s and sort of up to now, the journey she's been on, the changes you've seen as well, I guess, for good, for bad, and just some of your happy moments and I guess interesting moments from growing up in Scotland. So that's sort of what we'll be covering
Brilliant.
today.
Let's do it.
Fantastic. So just quick background. So Rupa embodies both Scottish spirit and Punjabi heritage and has enjoyed the best of both worlds and cultures. Rupa will be sharing an amazing journey growing up in Scotland. So you can join us. You can call us on 0141 530 2787. You can send us a WhatsApp on 0745 990 6822. You can reach us on Facebook. We are Jambo Radio Scotland. On Twitter at Jambo Radio 1. On X.
Before they cancel you.
Come on. I'm sure they'll go back to Twitter. On X, previously Twitter at Jambo Radio 1. On Instagram at jamboradio.scotland. Or you can send us an email info@jamboradio.co.uk. And folks can...
Yeah, you can feel free to please download the Jambo Radio app on your Android phone or app from App Store as well if you use the iPhone.
Fantastic. So today we have a Scottish-born leader of Punjabi heritage whose journey bridges cultures, careers and communities. And that's true because you've had a few careers as well. You've transitioned over the years. And I was looking on LinkedIn today and I saw you're also a BBC contributor. I'm like, what does she not do? But we'll get into that. Trained as a lawyer, yet thriving in the boardroom, she has become a prominent figure in Scotland's business landscape, championing diversity and driving impactful change. Over the next hour, we'll look into her earliest memories growing up in a Punjabi household, the challenges she faced as a child of immigrants, and how her legal foundation has shaped her path to leadership. Stay tuned for a rich, candid conversation that reminds us how our roots can become a great strength. Welcome, Rupa. And let's dive into this, Rupa.
Yeah. Before we dive in, I'll just ask Rupa, in less than 30 seconds, can you tell our listeners who Rupa is without saying what you do for work?
Oh, what I am without saying what I do for work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because normally people go, I'm a lawyer.
No, that's interesting. I would say then primarily, first thing, I'm a mum. You know, I have 2 teenage boys, so primarily I would say I'm a mum, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a sister. I am someone who really loves community. I love Punjabi heritage culture, and I'm someone who really thrives in that space. So yeah, I'm that's probably what I would say in terms of all of those things. I'm also quite chilled out and happy generally.
Oh, that's good. Happy. That's
is,
really good, because
Yeah.
in the world we live in today, that's something that we need to keep praying for, like, you know,
Yeah.
for people to just be happy and
Yeah,
peaceful.
and just be intentional about it as well, because sometimes when people complain about this, and you're like, yeah, but you've got this, maybe focus your energy on that. So it's good that you're naturally happy, but then for those that are not, it's good to remind them to be intentionally happy.
Absolutely. And we
Yeah.
were sort of talking
Find
about that.
reasons to
Just,
be-
you know, I was saying that this is a year where I've decided I'm just going to say yes to lots of opportunities.
Yes.
So, and for no great reason other than sometimes I'll just be like, it just sounds like fun. Let's just do it. You know, Enoch was like, thanks for coming. I'm like, no, I did it because this sounds like fun.
This is not about you, Enoch. Don't take credit for this.
I'm like, it just sounded like fun. I wanted to do something
There's
fun.
okay, hopefully we'll make it as much fun as possible for you then. So Rupa, I'm always interested in names, right?
Yeah.
So I'm from a African household. I'm from an African nation, and our names have meaning, right? So you are Rupa Mooker.
Yeah.
What does Rupa mean? What does Mooker mean? And where do those names come from?
Yeah, so Mooker, I have absolutely no idea. It's my married name, and I just took it, and I've never researched it. But thank you for reminding me. I should probably go and check that out.
A few years later.
I mean, nearly 20 years, but you know, that's a good thing you've just reminded me to do. I'll do that. Oops. So Rupa, rope means beauty.
Okay. Beauty in which language?
So in Punjabi, Hindi. So
okay.
it means, so rope means beauty. So my actual name is Roopneet, but I get called Rupa, and there's a story behind that. But so I suppose if you're doing a literal translation, rope means beauty, neat means greed. So it can be like sort of greedy beauty. That's this kind of name.
So like you're greedy, you want all the beauty to yourself.
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Or maybe my parents were really greedy and they were like, make our daughter beautiful.
The most
Maybe it was
beautiful,
that.
yeah, take all the beauty
Yeah.
from all the
That's what they named me.
yeah. Don't keep any beauty for Sade and the rest of them. Just give everything
If
to
we
her.
name her this, then that will be it. That will do the trick. So I think my mum and dad were onto something there. And actually the way my name came around was, so Rupa is there was a fantastic Bollywood actress back in the day, like mid 70s, called Zeenat Aman. Honestly, look her up. She's gorgeous. She's gorgeous today as well. And at that time, she was in a film. It was a very big, huge Bollywood film called.
What was it called?
It was called Satyam Shivam Sundaram.
I don't know that
I'll
one.
tell you later.
I know a few, but not that one.
So this one, and it's an old one. It's the 1970s. And my mum was pregnant with me at the time, and she had gone to the cinema to see this film. And
in the UK or back?
in the UK,
Okay.
yeah. So in the UK. So she had gone to the cinema because they put on Bollywood films in the cinemas. She'd gone and she'd seen this beautiful woman on screen, and she said, "And if I have a daughter, I'm going to call her Rupa because that was the name of the character in the film."
Okay.
And then she did have a daughter, and then she called me Rupa. So actually, she always kind of knew that she wanted to call me
Rupnik.
Rupa, and then but because in like sort of the Sikh religion, what we do is when you're naming a child, so it all really worked out very well. When you're naming a child, we have our holy scriptures, and that's where we take all of our prayers from and all of our learnings. And when a child is born, you go to the Gurdwara, which is a Sikh temple, and the prayers are read, and basically out of that's where the letter is given to you, and that's what you should name your child with. So this all really aligned, because I was like, what if you hadn't got an R? She was like, yeah, I didn't have a backup plan. So my mum was very just, convinced that this was going to be it. So they went, they got an R. She wanted to call me Rupa, but that in Sikh names, they have to kind of be a bit longer for no reason. I mean, that's changed now. We have much cooler names. But back then, Roopneet is a very traditional name. And then Rupa was what she wanted to call me. So I've always just been called that. And actually, not very many people know that that's my real name. But now they will. So there you go.
Wow.
Listen.
Exclusive.
I've known you for 20 years? And I never realized your name was Rup. How do you spell the Roopneet?
Rupneet.
Okay,
Just N-E-E-T.
Roopneet.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are some people out there that are actually called Roopneets.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, yep.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, though.
It's
No,
not a very
it's
common
unique,
name.
yeah.
And even like Rupa is not that common nowadays. It's a very old-fashioned
Yep.
Indian name. Although I did hear there was a baby born about 2 months ago. And my mum was very excited. She's like, "There's a baby and they've called her Rupa," and I was very excited.
I've got to meet the other Rupa. It's interesting, right? So, does Rupa have a meaning?
Yeah. So just like sort of beauty.
She said, yeah.
Okay, no, I thought that was Rupni.
Yeah, so the
Yeah.
neat
No,
is the
Rupa is
grade.
beauty.
Yeah,
He's
Rupa
not,
is-
he's not paying attention.
Yeah,
is
I
it?
mean,
I'm not paying
that's-
attention,
what can I say? I'm not going to be sexist. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, but you're trying to entrap Rupa. You're forgetting she's an employment lawyer.
I
You
have
can't
to be
entrap
very
lawyer.
careful about what I say. Very careful.
So Rupa, you grew up in a Punjabi household
Yeah.
in Scotland 40 something years ago. Take us back. What was your earliest childhood memory growing up in that household at that time in Scotland?
Yeah. So my kind of earliest memories, I was born in Glasgow, and for the first few years we stayed in Glasgow. I've got a younger brother, he's 1.5 years younger than me, and I just remember
I just need to brag.
Yeah.
I know a younger brother.
Yeah, he knows my.
Oh, you do?
Listen,
Yeah.
listen. hey, these things just happen.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
That was also very random, and because he said to me, he's like, I met Enoch, and he goes, and he didn't know we were brother and sister, and I was like, but he does now. So so my brother's 1.5 years younger than me, and I just remember like having a really lovely childhood, like very happy memories. We sort of started off in Glasgow, and then when I was about 4, we moved to Dunfermline, which is in Fife. So moved there, and again, my memories are all very good, and I went to school and had a great time, and my parents had newsagents, and like some of my earliest memories are obviously going to school, etc., but I spent a lot of time in the shop because as my parents were working, they didn't really have help with childcare. Dunfermline was very different from Glasgow. Glasgow was quite multicultural as it is today, but Dunfermline back in the day definitely wasn't. And my dad, we're from a Sikh family. He has a turban, he has a beard. He's not
So
blending in. He's not blending in
Yeah.
anywhere. And so I think when I speak to my parents about it, they tell me sometimes it was a bit difficult, but I come from such a positive upbringing and background that they just sort of turned that around, and actually they then became so loved in the community with the shop. And so we stayed there between, I think I was ages of like maybe 4 and 10, so sort of mostly halfway through primary school. And I guess my memories were just there were a few other kind of Punjabi Sikh families there as well, who we are still very much in touch with.
And is there a Sikh temple out there?
Not in Dunfermline.
then?
We had to come to Glasgow.
Okay.
So we were very connected with Glasgow because my cousins lived in Glasgow, my grandparents lived in Glasgow. We were the only ones that were in Dunfermline. But we made very good friends with other Sikh families there who to this day remain, our very firm lifelong friends because we all grew up together. So I just remember having a great time, just as kids do. You're just going to school, you're having a great time, you're playing, you're doing all of that. And just our memories, I suppose. I always laugh. My brother's first day of school, the photo of me and him like standing there holding hands, looking very cute, and we've just got all these like kind of boxes of Tennant's Lager in the background. Like that's his first day of school photo. And we're just like, yeah. And my dad was like, yeah, maybe we should have moved the Lager.
So today you can Photoshop that out.
Yeah,
You can.
no.
You can use your pixel.
But I don't want to Photoshop it out.
Yeah,
because
you
I
want to
think
keep
it's-
that memory.
That's
That's the reality.
That was
Yeah.
the reality. We were brought up, and and from a young age we were helping in the shop, and we were serving customers, and it was good. Yeah.
And because the Sikh temple, the way Christians go to church on Sunday,
Yes.
Sikhs go to temple on Sunday.
So Sunday is a day that most people go, and it was
Yep.
mostly just, I guess, because of the way this country is set up,
Yep.
you're off,
Yep.
and that's when the community can get together. So when we were younger, we used to travel through to Glasgow
Okay.
on a Sunday to
Okay.
sort of go to the temple, meet family, meet friends, and it was it was a social gathering
Yep.
as well as a religious one.
Yep.
But also on a more practical level, my mum and dad had to do the cash and carry for the shop, so you would do a little trip to temple, and then you would go cash and carry and
pick stuff.
get all your stuff up, and then you would meet people and have a really nice time. And then I always remember my dad always used to get us a kebab on the way home, and then we would get a kebab, and then he had a little red van, and then me and my brother would go to sleep in the back, and you would sleep in the van on the way home. So
It's funny, that's like clear
it's these
memory,
little,
right?
little things that
It's
you
interesting.
remember.
And I'll say this, I intentionally am creating memories
Yeah.
for my kids.
Yes.
I'm intentionally
Yeah.
putting some things out there just so when they look back, those will be clear memories. Like, for example, as you said,
Yeah.
kebab on the way home. For us, it's pizzas on Friday nights. It's like, it's almost like you're going to start a war if you're not
there's not
doing it
pizza. Yeah.
on Friday, But what I remember, I've been to Sikh temple a few times, and
Oh,
it was
really? Have you?
it was for food.
Yeah. Oh, the food.
I should have guessed so.
It was for food. So I had a friend when I was at uni. As I said, I had a great time at uni.
Yeah.
His name is Tilan. is it's from Germany, but origin is from Bangladesh. So he comes to church with us.
Yeah.
And then after that, we go to Sikh temple because there's food. So we go eat. So that was my only experience. But listen, anything.
So they serve food there every Sunday.
Is
it still like that?
So any day you would go. So now, because there's a huge population in Glasgow, it's much bigger than it was back in the day. And any day you can go in, there will usually be food. So it's a concept which is called langar, which is a free kitchen. And in the Sikh religion, we basically believe in humanity, equality, all of that. And we open our doors to anybody that wants to come in, and it's a free vegetarian meal that you will get, and it's vegetarian so that everyone can have it. Free because some people need free meals.
And it's open to everyone.
And absolutely, and it's open to everybody. And one of the great things about langar is that you all get served the same food. You all, and the other thing we do, and other than if you are not kind of mobile, etc., and obviously for our elderly congregation we have seats and tables for them, but everybody else, actually, when you eat, you sit on the floor. And the reason for that is it's because no one is above anybody else. You are literally all sitting there eating from the same steel plates, the same food at the same level. So it doesn't matter if you are someone really, really important or you are someone not considered as important. That equality is just huge. And I think when you've been brought up like that, it really, I guess it's shaped like that. It shapes like how I do my things now. And
Sade tells me I'm very humble, so that was where I got my humility from. And this is me being humble. That's where I got my humility from.
By telling you he's humble. Get a load of this guy.
Honestly, now you see what I go through. But anyway, that's so interesting. Do you still have, I've got something to ask, but I don't know, maybe it's going 2 steps ahead. It's just your experience, because you really have vivid memories. Because honestly, I don't think I can remember what I did when I was 4. Because you said 4 when you were 4.
We moved when we were 4.
When you were 4, but you can still kind of have, like, you still have the memories there. Wow. So in terms of,
I think I know why she doesn't remember. It's suppressed memories, because a childhood was not fun.
I mean, it's true. You remember the things. I mean,
that's not even true. Well, maybe some of
it is 95%.
Yeah, but I think also, if you asked me what I had for my breakfast yesterday, I couldn't tell you that. So I think it's like the memories are, I guess, are important.
The good memories.
They will last, right? And of course, I'm sure there will have been times when it wasn't so great, and I do know that, because of course my parents, they were in in an environment which wasn't necessarily always very welcoming. My dad is originally from India, so he came over when my parents got married. But my mum, interestingly, she sounds exactly like me. So when people meet my mum and they see this little wee Indian lady, they are not expecting her to come out with this accent. But she came to this country when she was 1. So she's been here. So my grandparents came over when
literally born here.
She was literally born here. So she doesn't know anything other than being here. And so that's like over, I can tell everyone, she was 70 like a few months ago. So, that's a very long time that she's been in this country. But my dad, again, he's been here for a very long time, almost 50 years. So, but my dad speaks with an accent, my mum doesn't, and all these little things, they do end up making a bit of a difference. And one of the favourite memories for me is, I don't know if you guys know, there was like a programme called Rabsy Nesbitt.
Yes.
Have you heard of Rabsy Nesbitt?
So anyway, Scottish one.
Very Scottish, and it was like a guy who basically did this programme, and it was very Scottish in terms of how he spoke. And I remember always watching that, and my dad always had the subtitles on. I was like, why have you got subtitles? He's like, I don't
understand anything you say. Like proper strong
really
Scottish
strong,
accent.
But actually, through when we moved back to Glasgow, my mum and dad then got a post office and a newsagent, and they were in that post office for 30 years. And by the end of it, trust me, he really understood Scots.
No more subtitles.
Yeah, he was like
crushing it.
He was like, I am all over this. So it's
usually
cute.
like that. I think it's always the initial stage, because my own experience was when I came to study the first time, 2012 for my master's, and the first class, oh God bless the man, I think Ronnie, very amazing lecturer. I just didn't hear anything he was saying that day in class, and I was really scared for myself. Like, what have I done? How am I even gonna succeed or thrive in this environment? And then I started recording my class, and then I would play back when I get home when I'm cooking my dinner and stuff like that. And then over time I got used to it, but it's just that initial.
And it's difficult,
culture is a shock, you call it, and then you're like,
because I think again, my dad spoke perfectly good English, but it was English with a particular accent in India, whereas he came here and he's like, what is going on here? But, you know, in saying that, I've been born here, brought up here, and I remember going to do a tribunal in Aberdeen once, and I got into the taxi, and I swear that taxi driver could have been speaking Japanese for all I know, but apparently was speaking English. I had no idea, because in Aberdeen the dialect is very, very different, and I just couldn't we could not have had a conversation, and it was a very strong Aberdonian accent. I was like, so I just nodded a lot. I have no idea what I agreed to, but I was like, sounds fun. I'm like, yeah, sure.
That's interesting.
Reminds me of my sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
When I came to the UK for the first time for uni, so I went to Liverpool Uni. So got off at Heathrow, took the train to Liverpool Lime Street, got out, got in the taxi. That journey, I didn't hear a word of what that guy said in the taxi. So I was just sort of laughing, and my chin was sore from just laughing, because I was like, what is this guy talking about? Like, is he speaking English? I mean, it's Scouse accent, right? Like, very, very strong. But then, as you said, within weeks, the brain is amazing, right?
It is, yeah.
Within weeks, you're just, you're thinking, picking it up, and after a while, you're not thinking anymore. You're just picking it up.
It's good fun.
So you talked about your pictures, you know, when you were in school then, and what was it like growing up, like in the school setting now, from your background as, you know, you're Punjabi? So how does what was the experience like in school for you at that time?
Yeah.
And then outside of school, when you're like back to normal life, do you have to readjust yourself? Or?
Yeah. I mean, I think anyone that grows up in two cultures does some amount of adjusting, right?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter whether you're younger, older, whatever, there is always that adjusting. I find myself still doing it, you know, sometimes, just because there's like specific things or specific places that you feel a bit safer in, and you can be more yourself. But I mean, being in school, again, I had a really nice positive experience. I didn't ever think that I was that different, because my parents hadn't brought me up to, you know, they were just like, this is what we do, this is our culture, this is what we do, and then you just sort of went with it. And again, I remember, you know, when you used to like dress up for like Halloween and all these kind of things, and my mum would like dress me up as like an Indian princess and things like that, and I would go away in these, you know, gorgeous things. My brother, on the other hand, he had a bit more of a difficult time, because again, he had a turban, and when you're younger, you know, boys like they have a top knot and a sort of head covering, and so it was definitely more difficult for him, because I mean, obviously we both visibly look different. We're a different colour, but for him he stood out. But again, you know, even that, from a young age, he had such amazing friends around him that it was just so normal. And the schools that we went to were very understanding, and they wanted to learn. So, you know, I learned from a very young age how to tie his head covering and, you know, sort of doing that. But in terms of the teachers, they wanted to then learn, and, you know, how do we tie this and how do we do it, just because sometimes if you're playing or whatever, if it comes off, they wanted to know how to sort of deal with it. So yes, of course, sometimes I think with anyone who is maybe from a different background, of course there's going to be some times where it's a bit difficult, but, you know, generally I had a very good school experience, as did my brother. And then you just learn to sort of navigate, you know, as you sort of go. But it can be quite difficult if you are one of the very few, which at that time we definitely were one of the very few.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I'm listening to you now, I'm thinking, you're my children.
Exactly. That's exactly what your children.
Yeah.
So you're like kind of like what my parents would have gone through. But so your children.
Yes. They've got
that's
to
us. They're
switch
balancing.
between the Nigerian household and then they go out to the Scottish household. I was gonna make a joke. It's not a joke. I'm actually thinking of posting this on LinkedIn soon. Now they say bring your old self to work. I'm like, it's not true. You can't bring your old self to work. It's not possible, because if you do, the workplace does not work. So we all need to blend to a certain level.
I think she's touched on it briefly as well, because she said there's some spaces where you just feel very free. You feel like you can be yourself. You feel safer there, and not like you don't feel safe in other space, but it's just that you know, it's just you're just conscious of it, and there's really nothing you can do about it.
It's so, I mean, so linking it to my kids. Again, maybe I'm just being selfish here. I'm trying to understand what can I learn from you that I can then apply to them. So were there challenges, you know, switching between both cultures, people being curious about maybe your look, your hair, and this and that. Some of the challenges you faced in that area. How did you respond? How did you deal with them?
Of course. And, sometimes it would be as simple as, especially when you hit your teenage years, so good luck with that. But when you hit your teenage years, you're then much more conscious of things that you weren't conscious of before. And I remember the biggest fight that we used to have with our mum was, we would be going out somewhere. That's when my mum would start all our cooking, and I'm like, what? Like, now we're going to go out and we're going to smell like right? And it's just like, why are you doing this, right?
Why are you doing this to us?
Why are you doing this to us? Like, now we're going to go out, exactly, and now we're going to smell like, the cooking. And like, now when I think, I'm like, we were so ungrateful. I now do this to my kids, obviously. They're like, why are you cooking? I'm like, well, you don't complain when you're eating it. So I think it's things like that, because obviously when you're a teenager and you're trying to fit in and you want to be the same as everybody else, of course I went through a phase where I wanted to be the same as everyone else, and I wanted to kind of wear the same clothes or whatever, so I think that's difficult as well sometimes when you're sort of balancing that, but I think the positive thing that my parents did was they were very free with us to a certain extent, so they didn't ever sort of prevent us from really doing anything. They were like, okay, go. They would have limits, but they would like, okay, go, experience it, because they needed us to go and experience it for ourselves and then make our own mistakes, etc. So I think the teenage years are always a bit more difficult, but I guess, in terms of sort of straddling both the worlds, I equally love 90s R&B and hip hop, which is what I grew up on.
What's your favourites?
Oh, I really love Fugees. Like, I love
Killing Me
Fugees.
Softly, yeah.
That's my all-time favourite song. I love it.
Look at I just realised I just don't know her brother. I know your husband as well.
You do?
Oh, well.
Listen.
We need to give you... I'll bring you out what happened next week.
Exactly.
You deserve an award, hey.
But equally I love that, but equally I was saying this to someone the other day, like, I couldn't tell you what I had for my breakfast yesterday, but ask me any Bollywood song from the 1990s and I will sing that for you, like word perfect. So I grew up in this sort of like 90s, which by the way there's no debate, it has the best music ever. That is the decade, and I'll fight anyone that says otherwise. But straddling those two worlds, that was really interesting. At school I was sort of, and again, when I tell my children this and they're like, please don't say this out loud to people, so I'm going to say it on the radio. I was in the school orchestra, I played the violin, I loved the library, I did all of that, I was in the choir, I did all of that good stuff.
The ideal student.
I was, which is why my children are just like, whatever. But then out of school, I was doing classical Indian dancing, I was doing Bhangra dancing, I was learning how to play the harmonium and the tabla, which is like the drums, and singing and doing plays. And so I had such a variety of things, like really creative world, and that was very much encouraged by my parents. And I think because of that really helped me just to sort of flow and fit and just kind of extend as I wanted.
You're not just a Punjabi girl. You did what everybody else was doing. But sort of, I did what everyone else was doing, but sort of brought my own little twist to it, if you know what I mean? So, for example, I did higher music, and in higher music you had to kind of compose something. And what I composed was very much sort of based on Indian classical music. And my music teacher hadn't necessarily, and she was like, this is interesting. So it was just sort of you were blending things. And I suppose the other thing, which is difficult, in terms of I love the clothes from my culture, I love it, and it's very interesting because when I was younger I would have been so embarrassed if any of my friends from school had seen me in my traditional outfit. It was sometimes if we were going, say, from the Gurdwara, and my mum would be like, right, we need to go to shops, I'm like, I am not going to the shops in this, I need to change, I need to put my jeans on, I need to do this. And that was a bit of a battle for a while, and that as you grow, whereas now I'll post on LinkedIn you would wait to walk if you can, and I'm like, hi, look at me. And I think again that comes with age, it comes with experience. It's a journey, isn't it?
But also we are in a better place in the world as well. People are interested, and I love that. But I think it's a way, food is a way to bring people together. fashion is a way to bring people together, and I look for the work that I do in my day job is hard, so I look for easy ways to be able to do the work that I do. You know, I'm like, it doesn't always need to be hard. Like, why do we need to always think that it has to be difficult to be worth it? Of course not. If you can do things in an easier way, then find that and do it, you know. So but yeah, so I think in terms of growing up, of course there's that kind of culture clash, and we navigated it as best as we could, and my parents navigated it as best as we could. But I suppose the difference that I have is that my mum grew up in this country, so she was a bit more on it. She knew what was going on. She went through it, and she went through her own difficulties as a child. It was actually harder for her than it was ever for me and my brother.
So I mean, what would you say has been the most, maybe you've answered it, the most rewarding part of having that multicultural upbringing? What's been the most rewarding part that maybe you enjoy compared to maybe if you just had one cultural upbringing?
Just the variety of what I've been exposed to. I mean, I'm so lucky to have had these two amazing cultures to learn from, you know, and I am just as much Scottish as I am Sikh, as I am Punjabi. Like, it's just that blend of it. I consider myself very fortunate to have done that, you know, and I guess I equally fit in both spaces as well. And I think that's something that I don't feel I had to work that hard on, because I grew up like that. But just being able to have that access to all of these different things, but also what I think it's given me is that natural curiosity and the natural will to learn about other cultures and other languages, so I'm completely bilingual. And I think that interest in language, culture, arts makes me naturally want to explore other cultures, other arts, and so I think that has really been something that I think is, you know, it's a vivid thing that I think that I've been brought in to be able to do that, and I consider myself very fortunate to have that experience.
So what languages do you speak?
So I speak English. So Punjabi, I speak that, so completely bilingual, so I speak it, read it, write it. I actually used to teach it up until about 2 years ago, because it's a language which is very popular. It's very widely spoken. I have a very basic Hindi and Punjabi are quite similar. I understand Hindi fully. Me and my brother taught ourselves it by watching lots of Bollywood films, and it's quite similar to Punjabi. So I could have a conversation in Hindi. Urdu, again, very similar. Probably less fluent in that, but I could definitely hold a conversation, and I would absolutely understand what someone is saying.
Okay, that's really impressive.
And very basic French.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I did it at higher level, so you know, I could tell you where the library is, and that I've got a brother. So
all right. So for the Punjabi part, I would just assume that you learned that from your parents speaking to you, like talking to you day in, day out.
So that's one thing I would say, like, that is such a special thing to be able to do. So my mum obviously spoke fluent English, she was from here. My dad, again, did speak English, so that was fine, but his first language is Punjabi, so naturally we grew up speaking that. And also my grandparents that were here from my mum's side, they didn't speak much English, but we were brought up just, you know, I think my brother didn't speak any English at all until he went to nursery, like didn't know a word of English, and then he learned it at nursery and it was fine. And I think that's the bit that I struggle in the next generation. So my boys, I've got 2 boys, me and my husband are both completely bilingual. We both speak Punjabi very, very well, but English is our first language. So in the house, we naturally speak English, which means that my boys have been brought up with that as their first language. So they understand bits. They can read it and they can write it, but the understanding and the speaking part is difficult.
That was going to be my next question. I think you've kind of answered it, because the other day I was taking my daughter, you know, she swims, she loves to swim, and then took her swimming, and I heard this mom talking to her daughter. I'm not sure what language they were speaking, but the young girl, I bet she's just around 6 years old. I was speaking back to the mom in that language. I was so impressed. And it's not the first time I'm seeing, or like in passing, hearing people having conversations with their kids in their native language. And I'm thinking, where have I failed? Because for someone like me, we tend to speak the native language as well, and English is the first language. But my son would understand, not fully, but it's getting there, but definitely can write, because you said your brother can write. And I'm thinking, what's the difference in the culture such that one culture gets it, like almost. I'm even surprised your kids can't, because honestly, I just kind of assumed that kids from that background that they just tend to. They speak the language.
No,
like,
so I think you have to be really intentional about it. You have to be, absolutely. And that's one thing. I think if I could sort of go back a wee bit and turn back time, I think that me and my husband would make much more of an effort not to speak English at home. And I wish we had done that more when they were younger, because when kids are younger, they're like sponges. That's how I learned it. You know, it was just like you're a sponge. You pick it up. Whereas with them, we spoke bits of it. We spent them to, you know, Punjabi class, a Punjabi school. We did all of that good stuff. But I think you need to be really intentional. And actually, those who are completely bilingual think, you know, there's been lots of research done. It's because that's what you're speaking in the house. So if you just ban English from the house, and I know that lots of people do that, especially if English is not their first language. So I think the difficulty with me is that English is my first language. So I actually, although I'm completely bilingual, I still have to translate in my head, you know, like what it is I'm saying. And that, I think, if I could go back and do it differently, I would definitely do that differently.
So speaking works, because honestly, 100%. I was giving up, because I believe speaking works for them to understand, but not to respond back in the same language.
I think if you do that, then and you say you have to speak back, and I do that sometimes with them and say, I'm going to speak and do this, and you have to answer back only in that.
All right, that's good. And then, so now moving on to another kind of topic entirely. So growing up, you wanted to be a TV and radio presenter, so that was your dream. Where was that, first of all, and where are you with that this time? Is it still something
I just loved like TV and radio and all that kind of good stuff? And when I was growing up, there weren't many people that looked like me on British TV, but then there was this one program which was called Network East, which I loved, and there was two presenters on that. One was called Sonia Deol, and she was a Punjabi Sikh woman who was doing this, and I was like, I want to do what she's doing, because she basically went on the telly, wore really nice clothes, got to go and eat really nice food, do really nice dancing, and like I was like, that looks amazing fun. And there was another woman who was Nikki Bedi, and she was from Britain, but she had married like a really big Bollywood star. Actually, she had married, but she basically lived in Mumbai and did all of that. And I was like, these two women are so cool, and that's what I want to do. I want to go on TV and just talk about like music and culture and arts. And from a young age, I kind of did that. Like the presenting stuff, you know, if anyone needed a presenter for anything, I'm like, I'll do it. Or if anyone needed a host for a show, I was like, I'll do it. So just from a very young age, even in school, if they needed a narrator, you know, for the play at Christmas and Nativity, I was like, I'll be the narrator. So I sort of did all of that, and my parents were very encouraging, you know, as I've mentioned, sort of with all the art stuff, the dancing, music, everything, very encouraging. But when it came to university, I was like, so I'd really like to be a TV presenter. And then that's when the Indianness in them came out, and they were like, that's nice, we'll go and get a proper degree. So but it was fine. I was then like, okay, I'll go and do law, because I was smart and bright and I had the grades to do it, and I didn't want to be a doctor, so I was like, I'll go and be a lawyer instead. So that was great, but alongside all of that, I still kind of pursued the radio, and I have been in radio since I left school. I just literally, it's a community radio station, I'm still on it, Awaz FM, and I basically just went and said, I would like to come on the radio, can I have a show please? And they said, okay. And then that was it. And so I think you just have to make your own opportunities. So I've done that, and being on that community station has given me so many opportunities, like so many. Like I've just had great opportunities to be able to go and do wider things, and I love that, because I want young people to understand that actually you can do whatever you want. I have some people who will say to me, how can you be a lawyer and a radio presenter? I'm like, why can't you be a lawyer and a radio presenter?
So it seems you've been on a journey then. So you've gone on to study law, you've practiced as a lawyer, employment law, and then you've moved on into, I guess, your current role is in the DEI equity space. So focusing on that, what are the biggest challenges companies are facing in that space, especially now in the current climate that we're in? And I guess, how are you supporting in that space?
It's difficult. Like right now, the political climate, as we all know, is wild. It is not a nice political climate, and that's very difficult for, you know, doing the work that I do in sort of inclusion, diversity, belonging, doing all of that. It's very difficult, and I think this is not the time to start thinking about, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this. It's more about actually, let's speak to our people and let's remind them this is a place for you. We are inclusive. You do belong.
You belong, yeah.
And this is a safe space. And I think that's really what we are doing. We're working very closely with network groups, employee resource groups. Really internally, but also externally, we're going out to speak to people as well. But internally, that's what we're doing, and that's what a lot of organisations are doing at the moment, especially because obviously there's been recent Supreme Court judgment which just happened in Scotland as well last week, and it's a difficult time. So the challenge right now is just to ensure that everyone does know that they are valued and that they do belong and that they are safe. And also, of course, there's challenges because there's so many opposing views, and that's very divisive, and we can't solve everything. I'm not setting out to solve everything, but I think what I am setting out to do is just really go on that journey of we are here, and this is the steps that we need to do to sort of make sure that we continue united. So it's been difficult. I was saying to my husband last week, I was like, I'm so tired. I was like, I couldn't figure out why I'm tired. But then when you do the type of work that we're doing, it's exhausting. You don't realise how much emotionally you take on.
It is personal, right? It's a personal.
Because if you truly care about it, and it's very personal. So it's very challenging, and there's no answers to anything other than I've not come up with this is a great way to make it all better, because there's not. We just and the political climate is moving all the time as well, and it's changing, and legislation is changing, and then we need to see what guidance is coming out in respect of certain things. So I think it's a very moving landscape, and we need to move with that, but also get the right messages out to people who are feeling not supported or unsafe, because it's a horrible time for some people.
Moving away from that very interesting topic, we've seen in your elements, presenting, I think twice at the Sammy Awards. So I think we should give her flowers, as they say, and you crush it. You and your co-host.
And the outfits as well. Like you said, you love your traditional outfits. I think twice you wore your traditional outfit, and they were so lovely. I need to find one for myself.
Saris, I love saris, and they're timeless. They're really, really timeless, and you can have them from years and years, and they get handed down generations, and obviously you can get brand new kind of cool ones. And I love doing that. I love dressing up, I love fashion, and so wherever I can, I try and bring a bit of that. And it's nice. And also, as I said, now I will quite happily, I'll put a post on LinkedIn. And actually, the very first time I did that wasn't actually that long ago. It was about, I think it was maybe around 4 or 5 years. It was just before COVID, and it was the first time. And even at that point, I was like, I don't know, do I want to do this? Because it's a big step. Obviously, I'm doing all of this, but LinkedIn is a very different space.
Then it was very different.
Very different, right? And it's professional. And I'm like, are people going to think I'm not being professional?
And because you're a partner as well.
So I was a director. I was a director, and I was just am I going to do this? And then eventually I was like, stop overthinking it. My husband was like, I don't want to hear about this anymore. Just post it. I was like, okay. So and I posted this photo of me in a green sari that I'd worn at an event that I was hosting, and just said, and I actually didn't really mention anything much about the sari. I just sort of said I was hosting this brilliant event. It was great, etc. And bonus, I got to wear this sari. And the amount of messages I got in my inbox.
So people did not comment. They just came.
No, because they're still it's interesting, right? I mean, obviously people comment to say, all of that. But there was a few that maybe commented on, but the amount of comments that I got directly into my inbox was I've never seen someone on a professional platform within Scotland posting something in their traditional, we should all be doing this. And I'm like, yeah, of course you should, because, this is what we're wearing. And so that was quite nice to know that, there's maybe young women out there who are feeling a wee bit more inspired. And of course now, you see lots and lots of people, and I'm sure I wasn't the first. I'm sure I'm just the first person that they happen to see.
You're the first, Rupa.
No, I don't.
That's the official line we're going with.
We'll tell ourselves that I'm
You're our first.
Our first, that's what we'll go with. But I think, and it just takes, I suppose, a bit of courage to be able to do something like that. And it's interesting, and you guys will know this as well, right? Because people will look up to both of you. You're role models. You guys are doing so much. You do everything, right? I get that a lot. How do you do everything? And I'm like, I just do stuff that I think's fun. But you guys do that, and it's really hard, because I don't know about you, but when I set off to do all my things, I didn't set off thinking I'm going to be a role model for everybody.
Just doing my thing.
I was just doing my thing, and then you sort of end up
becoming that
and I'm
person.
like, I'm not that important to be like,
Yeah.
like I wouldn't trust some of the stuff
Yep.
that I say, you know, like just take it with a pinch of
Calm
salt.
it, yeah.
But you know, so I think that that's difficult as well, because suddenly you're elevated into this position which I didn't sign up for necessarily.
Agreed.
But then there's that responsibility that you then hold, and I take that really seriously. But at the same time, I'm like, can someone else just come along and do it now? Because I just want to go and have some fun. So I think that's interesting, and I think for the next generation it's great, and we will see that. But yeah, you guys must get that as well, no?
Yeah, the last guest said the same thing actually.
Yeah, that was what she
Yeah.
asked. Don't know. Don't have an answer. It's strange one, right? Like when people ask me that question, I feel like I'm letting them down with my answer because I don't have a good answer. I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Because you feel like whatever you
just do
say
it.
isn't what they're expecting. They just
Yeah.
expect you to go into that, you know, that
How do you do it?
explanation,
Like,
and it's just like
I don't know. I just do it.
Yeah.
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 Well, the last guest, I think you're getting better. The last guest, you just said, "Well, I'm Enoch." That's it. And I'm like, speaking of being humble, hey.
Yeah,
Well,
listen.
you know.
But I at least I explained. Yeah, it's just about.
Mumble.
It's just that he's
like, I am
humble. He's humble. He is actually. It's just about getting yourself and getting your life together.
Yeah.
I
So-
think that was what I said to
So
them.
we have 10 minutes.
Mhm.
I still have a few questions.
Mhm.
So we'll just do quick fire.
Okay.
Yeah. And so 15 minutes. So what's been the most defining moments of your career? I know you've had a varied career, right? And I don't say that to sound like you're in your 80s, but you've had a varied career in your, few years of working. So what's been that? Has there been one defining moment
Gosh.
that brought you to this point?
One defining moment. I don't know. I think
Oh,
because I've done so many different things,
Yep.
so I've probably got like a defining moment in each.
each.
But I guess if I was to sort of narrow it down, I think when I made the move from being an employment lawyer and moved into director of people and development role, that was probably the bit that really defined me. So I had been an employment lawyer for a very long time. I loved it. I was in tribunals up and down the country. I always wanted to be a litigator. I loved it. I loved being an employment lawyer, but I got to the stage where I was like, I've been doing this for like 15, 16 years now. I've still got quite a long time until retirement. Is this what I want to do forever and ever? And at that point I was like, my kids are getting a bit bigger. I'm still young enough to be able to go and do something else. So let's do a switch. And actually I didn't plan. I think this is the other thing. I didn't plan any of this. All I knew was I wanted to move away from doing employment law and do something that worked with people, and I could help and maybe just help it make things a bit easier for others that are in the legal profession to sort of navigate things. That was like generally what I thought. And I was very fortunate that the firm that I worked for, and I had worked for them since I came out of university, that they actually offered me the job of director of people and development in the firm that I had trained in and worked at. And that was a very big risk on their part, because they were putting someone in the role who had zero experience for that.
But some transferable skills.
Yeah, lots, because I was an employment lawyer. So obviously very transferable skills, but also what they said was, you know this place inside out. You have grown up here. And I had, because you're straight out of uni. I'd grown up there. I got married. I had my kids. I had everything. I'd grown up there. I knew it inside out. And they were like, we need someone to reassess what's happening here and really make it work. And I was very fortunate, and I don't think everyone necessarily gets this chance. I had a very supportive board, and they really listened to what I was saying, which I think is, if you've got that support, it's so much easier to get things done. So I think that was probably a defining moment, because when I moved into that, and I did HR and I did all the kind of boring parts of HR as well, which I never want to see a payroll again. But, the boring parts, of course, you do that. But what I then realised was that actually the bits that really interested me and excited me were all the bits that I was doing in the inclusion space, the diversity place, the equity space. And then that's what led me to think, actually, that's where I want to move next. So I think that's probably the most defining. There's been many. I've done some brilliant cases, which I'm obviously not allowed to speak about because it's confidential, but some brilliant tribunal cases.
No, you must have some interesting stories.
Yes.
They are the ones we want to avoid in HR.
You don't want those.
Yeah, because I'm HR. I'm like, I don't want to be dragged to court for anything.
You want to avoid
just get it right,
tribunals.
Okay. He's gagging. Okay, what next? Get it out.
So the next thing is around, if you look back now to, teenage Rupa, 13, 14, that period where you're thinking, oh, I don't want to wear this to the shop. What would you tell your old self?
Oh.
And this is relevant for maybe parents like us and for maybe kids listening. What would you tell yourself?
I would say just embrace it. Embrace like your culture, embrace your heritage, embrace it, because no one is actually looking at you. Everyone is really worried about themselves, and no one is paying any attention to you.
Now what have I done? Why are you pointing?
I thought I did that every time. I'm like, nobody cares.
See?
people are just trying to deal with their whole problem.
He says that, but he's not saying that because I'm worried about what people think. You need to be clear when you say these things, because even right now, I'm a living testimony because I'm wearing African print.
Yeah.
So
you're not.
You're not, for starters. So I'm very, very
You're
proud.
representing.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I am.
You're
And
representing.
my braids,
Exactly.
you know.
You're representing.
So please don't go that. But he says
And I
that.
love your necklace.
Oh, thank you.
I love it.
He says that. He says that a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
So
Okay. I'll let you carry on.
yeah, carry on, Enoch.
Yeah, I mean, so what's...
I know he really wants. I think he has a lot of things he wants to ask.
I mean, so what has surprised you? You've been on so many journeys. You're still on a journey,
Yeah.
right? You're becoming, as they say.
Hmm.
What has surprised you the most about your growth on that journey you've been on? You know, sometimes when you look back, you're like, oh, I can't believe I did that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Enoch, I say that pretty much every day. I'm like, can't believe I just did that, or I can't believe that worked. And I
That's
think,
happened, yeah.
you know, I am a constant learner. I love to learn. I want to learn every single day. And I think that if you're not learning every single day, then you should be learning something every single day. So I think when I look back and when I look at like from where I've come, you know, I was the first person in my family to kind of go to university and get a law degree and, you know, do all of this stuff. And I'm just, and it's weird when I sort of look back at it, when you think about, you know, we grew up in the back of like a shop, and then we had the post office, and remember when you're from like Indian families, and I'm sure you will very much relate to this, you know, if you've got a family business, you're working in it. It's a family business.
Yep.
It's exactly what it says on the tin. So, you know, you will be there working summer holidays, like we didn't have summer holidays, you were in the shop, or a Saturday or whatever it was, and to the extent that even when I qualified and I was a lawyer, I used to take 2 weeks off to give my mum and dad time so that they could go on holiday, and I used to go and work in the post office, like, and it would be very funny because you would get the little old grannies coming, they're like, are you not the lawyer? I'm like, I am, but for today I am your post office counter assistant, because they'd all seen us grow up, you know, we'd been there for 30 years. So I think when I look back at all of that, and just, I think it's not really what I have done. I feel like I look back and I think, look at what my parents did. Like, look at what they did. They did that from nothing, from absolute scratch. They did that. They got me and my brother educated. They did that. They supported us. They really, you know, they're our biggest fans, our biggest champions. So I wouldn't say it's down to me. I would say, like, I look back and think, well done, like my mum and dad.
Yeah,
Well done.
it's interesting, right? You know, that old age question around, and we're just chatting about it 5-10 minutes ago, around how do you do it? Like, I would say we get asked and you get asked. When you're saying what you just said, I was thinking maybe that's how we do it.
Yeah.
Your upbringing is very similar to mine. My parents had a business. Sade's parents had a business. So it was, it was school, shop, shop. As you said, no summer holidays. Summer holidays, go to work and stuff. So I was doing that from primary school age, similar to Sade.
Same for me.
So, and I think we've just carried that mentality. True. It's like just that
Hard
go
work.
mentality.
Yeah. Which is good in a way, but also I do think that we probably need to break that at some point as well, because sometimes, you know, there's all this research being done on, like, if you're the eldest daughter in a Indian family, if you're the eldest daughter in whatever family, like how much you carry in respect of many things. And I'm an eldest daughter, and, you know, and I think that absolutely, I think that work ethic is 100% from my parents and from our community. My community works very, very hard. The Sikh community, I mean, you know, one of our greatest principles is to serve others. We are literally brought up to do that. That is actually one of our values, which I think is great. But I think also is to try and, as I was saying to you earlier, you know, absolutely work hard, and I do work very hard, and I continue to do that, and I want my kids to have that work ethic. I'm not sure it's entirely transferred over to them, but once they're out their teenage years, I'm sure it'll be better.
Transferable skills.
There's transferable skills, but you know, you want them to have that work ethic, and I want them to see their parents have got this work ethic. But I also think it's not a bad thing to also sometimes just
take it easy.
Take it easy, and that I struggle with it. I won't lie. Like, even when I'm like, I'm going to have a chill day, and then I'll be like, after about half an hour, I'm like, yeah, I need to do something. I'm not good at like just relaxing or sitting, and I think
it can be like that.
It can be like that, you know, and we should be. And I know, and I tell other people that they should be, but I'm not very good at taking that advice myself. So, yeah.
I know how to relax.
All right, I've just realized I've got, but very quickly, no, I promise, she's just like in a few kind of words. So, you worked at BBC Radio. What was just tell me about your work and contribution to BBC Radio. What was the focus on at that point? Just very quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, I do contributor stuff for BBC at the moment, so I'll go and I'll talk about employment law or whatever it is.
You still do that till
I still do that today, yeah, so I get to go on a lot of programmes, and I also actually am a guest contributor on the Faith and Ethics programme, which is a really lovely programme. It's they get people on from different faiths and they sort of talk about the big issues that are happening, but from a faith perspective, so I love that. But actually my very first encounter with the BBC was, it was just before I'd had my first son, so it would have been like maybe 2004, 2005, something like that. And we had, it was me and my co-presenter, we had a show called Asian Overground, and it was the first time in Scotland that we were basically playing Asian music on BBC Scotland, and we did it for, I think it was 4 years, but that was groundbreaking at the time. So that was the first time when I did that. It was a music show, it was entertainment, it was all of that, and then I had the kids, so it's very difficult to keep doing everything, but yeah, the connection is still there in respect of that.
Oh, lovely, thank you so much. And lastly from me, looking back, because I've got this on my phone, so I'm going to be reading it out. Looking back, what has been the defining milestone of your career so far? Was it applying your legal skills at work or something more personal?
Oh gosh, the defining moment of my career, I honestly don't think I have one.
Okay.
I'm going to say it's still to come.
Yeah,
okay.
Still to come,
cool.
Still becoming. And
thanks, Rupa.
For that young person, or maybe even early careers person that's got a multicultural sort of identity, growing up in Scotland, maybe they've started work or they are going into the workplace soon, what advice would you give to them around how to continue to be their best self, grow their career, but still embrace both their cultures? What advice would you quick fire?
Yeah, it's difficult, I think, for this generation. I've obviously got 2 teenage boys, and I think it depends on what age you are, but if you're talking early careers, let's say they're out of university,
yes, early 20s-ish.
Early 20s, I would say embrace every single element from whatever culture it is, because you have so much more to bring than you maybe realise. And I think that's the one thing that I do think we all have so much to bring, different perspectives, the different upbringings, and actually that is what we need. We can't have everyone just doing the same thing, looking the same way, wearing the same thing. So I would say absolutely tap into that. Don't be afraid to embrace it, but also do it only when you feel it's safe for you to do that. I think that's really important, because you can give that advice and they go, well, actually I work in a really toxic workplace, so I would not necessarily be, I would then be saying get out of that workplace and go somewhere else. But I think that's what I would say.
Makes sense. That makes sense. And so we have a tradition here for you, the guest, to ask us a question. So any questions for us? Could be for both of us or one of us.
Who out of both of you, if you've had a fight, who says sorry first?
Easy. Me. So that's why I said I'm humble.
But I'm getting there though.
Yeah, she's getting there. She's working progress.
It's because you're always right.
Maybe, that's true actually.
Is this that whole thing of sister supporting sister?
That's true. I tend to always do the right things too. You can attest to that, can't you? Be honest. Yeah.
True.
The majority, I would say 99.9%.
I'm like, why can't you be like me?
I just don't like grief, so I just say sorry. Like, life's too short, man. I have not got time for faffing about. So that's a good one. And then we've got a tradition as well, and this is how we close, where the previous guest will leave an advice for the next guest without necessarily knowing who the next guest is. So our previous guest, Bemi, said, just keep going.
The show going.
Just keep the show on the road. All right. And I think that applies to you, because
she's still going there, like she said.
Yeah, you're just on a journey. You're becoming.
I've still got lots of things to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting because 10 years from now, we may be having a conversation, and what you'll be doing then, right now, you have no idea.
No idea.
Like, no idea. And that's the beauty of life, right? Especially when you're open.
Yeah.
You're not just, I'm just a lawyer.
Yeah,
You're like,
I'm
you're
open to opportunities.
Yeah, you just never
yeah.
know, right? You don't know where you'll be. You don't know what you'll be doing. You don't know what you'll be involved in. And it's because you've broadened, and your skill set as well. You've broadened your skill set where you can soak up a lot of things.
I'm hoping that in 10 years I'll just be on a beach somewhere. I'm not going to lie, Enoch. I just want to be on holidays.
Yep.
That's where I want to be in 10 years.
I'll keep you in my prayers. That will happen. Just remember to invite us
Absolutely.
every now and again. So, what advice do you have?
So my advice. I think it would be, I think every single person has some sort of gift or talent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you should ask yourself, are you doing whatever you can to help others through whatever gift or talent you've got? So, what are you doing to help those around you and to bring other people on? Because I genuinely think it should never just be about you. It should be about what you could bring to others as well. So I think, it would be about look within, what do you have that you think would help others? And then if you can, do that.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. That's I'm trying to think of the word that resonates, because we're all thinking, there's not much I can do.
Everyone's
but then
got something.
Rupa can do something because she's got this stuff. Enoch can do this stuff. We're like, no, what can you do where you are? So, and it's bringing it down to the individual level, to the everyday level.
And it doesn't need to be big. It doesn't need to be fancy. It's just like everyone has something. Everyone. They just need to find it.
On that bombshell, thank you all. We've had the amazing Sade with me.
Thanks for listening.
The exceptional
You
Rupa.
still can't find the word.
I'm still looking for it. Rupa. And it's been myself, Enoch, and it's been an exciting conversation, and I've learned so much. Hopefully those of you at home have learned from Rupa's story. Hopefully you've enjoyed it, and maybe you've learned something from there as well. Until we meet again.
Till next time.
Take care. Bye.
Take care of yourselves. Bye.